Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Perino, along with Paul Morrow, Jessica Tarlov, Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five.
A lunatic just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
So that was President Trump reacting to a horrific story out of Charlotte, North Carolina. A career criminal, 14 prior arrests, fatally stabbing a Ukrainian refugee in the neck, completely unprovoked, as she sat just minding her own business after she was working all night on the city's light rail. Irina Zarutska had fled the war in Ukraine, and she was looking for safety here in America, and she embraced the USA. And then she became a victim of America's revolving door of violent criminals. The city's Democrat mayor, she seemed to be more concerned over whether people were sharing the video online. And CNN's Brian Stelter felt the urge to lecture about racism.
Elon Musk, Charlie Kirk, other Trump-aligned figures succeeded in making this senseless death a symbol of big city crime. Some of the comments around this story are baldly racist, stoking fear of African Americans because this man attacked a white woman. The open racism on sites like X today, it's eye-popping. But there are also legitimate questions about this so-called career criminal, someone who had been a repeat offender. And those questions, I hope they're not lost amid all of the cesspool kind of comments on social media.
More on that in a moment. And the senseless murder comes as Democrats protest President Trump's vow to expand his crime crackdown to Chicago. They're ignoring the violence, but are outraged over the memes. President Trump posting this AI rework of the movie Apocalypse Now with the caption, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War." The president then sparring with a reporter who took that meme as a serious declaration of war.
That's fake news. When you say that, darling, that's fake news.
Well, why would you the Department of Defense?
Listen, be quiet. Listen. You don't listen. You never listen. That's why you're second rate. We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
Greg, the life of the Ukrainian refugee is worth pausing for a moment, or many more moments over. She escaped Putin, embraced the United States, got a job at a pizzeria, was in her uniform, taking public transit on her way home afterwards, and then this guy just stabbed her in the back.
Yeah, but you know what's worse than her murder? According to Brian Stelter, it's posting on social media. That's where he concentrated his concern, his antipathy, and then he says, but it's okay to question it as long as you're Brian Stelter, a fat white guy who should be fired again at CNN. He is one of the reasons why these crimes happen, because anytime you dare question crime, it's jerks, scumbags like him that call you a racist. I'm tired also of the term mental illness being used as a cover for criminality. When a thug targets a woman, that is not insane. He knows she's weaker. When he comes from behind with a knife, that's not insane. He minimizes her ability to inflict harm on him. When the thug flees, that's sane because he knows if he stays, he'll be arrested. So what would be insane would be if he were to face off against a man without a weapon, somebody like a Tyrus. That would be insane. You'd go, okay, that's crazy. But almost all of these people that do this stuff, they go after women. That is not insane. That's self-preservation. This is not insanity. It's an evil mind. And it's an evil mind that is somehow excused in a culture that weaponizes victim status. In this case, mental illness. And what is it about a society that contributes to this? And I say this based on my own personal evidence of being on city streets every single day in New York, that when a homeless person is shouting at people, he's not shouting, "I really made a mess of my life. Boy, I really screwed up." No, his aggression is purely blaming other things and other people. He blames the world, he blames people, he blames you. So we're living in a progressive ideological nightmare where the worst in society is empowered by a sense of victimhood. So when this happens, they will still get people like Brian Stelter that says, oh, be careful of the racism, or other people saying, you know what? We really need to be concerned about our services to the mentally ill, which may or may not be true, but he's not mentally ill. He needs to be executed. Lastly, I asked Grok for a conservative count of the number of times the George Floyd video was played, looking at tweets and social media, Instagram, news networks. It came to a conservative number of 975 million times. That is not counting retweets. So that is a snapshot of this liberal disease, the hierarchy of problems. The media and politicians, people like Stelter, implore you not to cover one problem, but to amplify another one to a destructive degree that leads to riots, leads to dozens of deaths. But do not cover this other thing because that is racist. And that is not as important. In the hierarchy of problems, we decide what you cover.
That was also, the George Floyd comparison was so good. Daniel Penny also we showed today.
Yes.
If you go to the New York Times, you type in Daniel Penny, you can get 100, there we go right here actually, thank you, control room. You get 100 results for Daniel Penny, is 0 for her. Paul, the mayor of the city said today, we can't arrest our way out of this problem.
Yeah.
But he had been arrested so many times and continually let back on the street.
Look, we can't arrest our way into everybody having perfect mental health, but we can arrest our way into the rest of us being a hell of a lot safer on public transport and in the public arena here. So she completely misses the point. She also says, in a staggering statement, she says that this is shedding light on the problems with society safety nets related to mental health care and the systems that should be in place. You're the mayor. Hello, you want to put a system in place? We'll hold your coat. Go ahead. But, she's not doing it. Instead, she's coming in after the fact. Now, let's progress the story a little bit, as you always say. Let's some of the stuff that could happen now that's almost not, certainly not going to happen. Mamdani is going to come in. He's going to make all the buses free. He's going to make the subway free. Who do you think goes on public transport when it's free? Well, I'll give you a clue. Right now, they don't enforce theft of service, which is essentially tantamount to having the transit system free. And that's why you have an explosion of mentally ill and homeless people riding those rails. What is the result? 52% of this city is female. Every woman I know, especially young women, are afraid of the subways. We have half the population is afraid to go on the subway. That costs us billions. And the downstream effect of that, just to give you a quick example, is the fact that because women can't come into the city late night into Manhattan, you look around, you see all the boarded up storefronts, you see the bars closing, you see the clubs closing, you see the fact that New York City now rolls up the sidewalks at 10 p.m. It's no longer the city that doesn't sleep. Why is that? Because nobody can come to work and then get out at 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, go on the subway. They can't do it. And they can't afford Uber, right? So that's not going to happen. Greg's 100% right about the woman issue. And here's another thing. This poor girl who survived Ukraine did everything right. Why? She has her hair up, all right? Ladies, you got to go on public transport. Hair is a big attractor, all right? That's just it. There's two things that attract mentally ill people, if you want to call them that, towards women, and it's almost always women. Even in Jordan Neely's case, he was going at a woman when Daniel Penny jumped up out of the seat, right? A woman with a baby. You got your hair and your eyes. Don't make eye contact. If you've got bright blue eyes, maybe wear glasses. This poor girl, she's wearing glasses. She got her hair up. It still happens. I want to go to one last point, just because you're talking about the Democrats and progressives. James Carville was on earlier today, and he's talking about the fact that why aren't you talking about, it might have been yesterday, why aren't you talking about the fact that Joe Biden helped put in place in 1994 this great crime bill? Well, first of all Biden did was vote for it. But who did do it was Bill Clinton, and more power to him. Where is he? Where is he now? What have you done for us lately? All right, because he knew at the time that this was an important issue. And I got to tell you something, just to be clear and truth in advertising here, we used to call it Clinton overtime when I came on the police department. We used to get it was called Condor, but it was Clinton overtime, and it worked. And it was essentially a federal endorsement of broken windows policing. Now, right now, in this current environment, when everybody's mad at Trump over putting the National Guard into the cities and highlighting this crime issue, where is Bill Clinton? Where are the elders of the Democratic Party who were a lot more sane in the 90s and helped turn all of this around? Again, I'm going to use it as our cities become the nut job archipelago.
Jessica, I know you don't speak for all of the Democrats, but you speak for yourself on this one. What do you think?
It's horrific. I'm glad that the video, most of the time when it comes across your feed, freezes because it's heart-wrenching. I'm glad that there are cameras everywhere now, so these things are documented and we just don't hear kind of a lackluster, someone was murdered on a bus, because people should understand how raw and villainous and evil this act was. I am one of the insane, women who does take the subway, and I will tie my hair back. I didn't know about that, but I certainly do try to avoid making eye contact with people. There has been a surge of police officers put on the trains. I think Kathy Hochul said that there is one for every train, but that's obviously not in every car. And there are issues, even though we're trending in the right direction. You know, when Greg said we shouldn't make this about mental health, I understand that there is sometimes someone that is so depraved that we can't talk about that. But when the justice system has failed this many times, that he had been arrested 14 times, and he did serve his time, and even the mother had reported him for mental illness. This is going to cause us to open up the conversation about involuntary commitments. And I think that people would probably be open to the idea that this guy should have been in a home versus being able to sit on the bus behind this innocent woman. No, I know. I'm just saying, if the justice system isn't going to do it, that.
All right. Jesse, let me give you the remaining
Sure.
time.
I mean, you got a black ex-con that stabs a beautiful Ukrainian refugee to death on public transit, and the media is silent. And then last weekend, 57 shot, and the media is silent. So what's the common denominator? Black perpetrator. These whites that are liberal, that run the media organizations, hold blacks to a lower standard than whites. And they're afraid of getting called racist, as Greg said, by their white colleagues. And they're afraid of Sharpton haranguing them about airing the community's dirty laundry. Because usually when beautiful blonde women get hurt, it's all over the television. Natalie Holloway, the girls in Idaho. You can't stop from seeing it. Now, this you'd think is the poster child for asylum seeker.
Yep.
She's from Europe, so she can assimilate easily. Her country is literally being invaded by Putin. She qualifies for refugee status, and she was working, so she's not a public charge. And then you have DeCarlos, who's the poster child for permissive politicians. The guy's a schizophrenic. He's been in and out of the court system his whole life since he was a minor, and he's obviously a threat to himself and everybody around him. And they turn the guy loose on the rest of us. And it's about, they don't want to incarcerate, they want to rehabilitate. We talk about the homeless industrial complex, how people profit from homeless. People are profiting from criminals. Instead of incarcerating them, they let them go to these community centers where they rehab them about addiction and violence, and none of that works, but people still get paid, and they get paid a lot of money. The chief of police in D.C., stunning statistic, says the average homicide suspect has been arrested 11 times. So these people, this guy's 14 arrests, he is advertising that he's a ticking time bomb. He's telling society he's going to hurt somebody. And if society doesn't listen, then society has blood on their hands. That's why you have to take the discretion away from these stupid DAs and judges. They can't be trusted anymore. You have to bring back mandatory minimum sentences on the federal level. I don't know, 3 strikes, 4 strikes, 5 strikes. How about 7 strikes? Is that enough? And then you got to put them in a loony bin. Biden spent, what, $8 billion building 8 charging stations? I think we could build 8 insane asylums with that money.
And even his mom, as Jessica said, she wanted him to be locked up. And,
he beat his little sister to a pulp.
All right, up next, it's the Socialist Squad to the rescue. AOC and Bernie team up with Zoran as the Democrats struggle with the path forward.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.